the first world countries are still importing slavery in the form of products, is clothes and chocolate that you eat in the evening or the coffees that you drink in the morning. The first world countries do have an opportunities to really eradicate slavery and free these innocent children and innocent people. They deserve to be a human, and I believe that we can build a new society where every person is free to be a leader, change maker, and problem solver. When we have this beautiful future coming soon, we need to get ready to build a new world, and we can build a new world only when we embrace and love everyone and care for each other.
Welcome to the show. This week was International Women's Day on Monday, and we have a deeply inspiring episode to share with you that celebrates and honours the power of women, as well as highlighting the work that needs to be done. This has perhaps been a heavy week for people of colour who may have been triggered by the racism commentary that has emerged following Meghan and Prince Harry's interview. And within this, you may have remembered your own experiences of institutional racism and microaggressions. And this may have also been a triggering week for those that have suffered with depression and suicidal ideation, as some of the media coverage has been distressing. If you've been affected, remember to minimize your exposure to such toxicity and find ways to resource yourself and those that you care about. Find people you can talk to and process with, so this becomes a time of deeper healing for you and for all of us collectively. And for those of you that are not triggered by these events, please use this moment to become an anti-racism and mental health activist and help make change in the way that we treat each other happen. The story that you are going to hear on this podcast is an incredible one that shows us the kind of courage, resilience, and generosity that is possible in this world. My guest this week is Nasreen Sheikh, a young woman with a passionate cause as big as her heart. She is a survivor of modern-day slavery, a social entrepreneur, an advocate for global human rights, and an international speaker. Born in a small rural village on the border of India and Nepal, she escaped forced marriage, child labor, and extreme poverty, risking everything to experience freedom. She campaigns and shares her story around the world, advocating for the eradication of modern-day slavery and for basic human rights to nutritious food, clean water, shelter, healthcare, education, a safe environment, and access to technology. Nasreen doesn't know her exact birth date or age and was not given a surname as a child. In her native village, girls' births are not officially recorded. Girls are unacknowledged. From the moment of her birth, the society tells the rural girl child that her existence is insignificant. If one's own birth does not matter, then the conditions in which she lives, works, strives, suffers, and dies also does not matter. At an early age, Nasreen came to believe, as girls, we are simply commodities that are bought and traded as such. We are not human beings. Growing up, Nasreen witnessed unconscionable atrocities against children and women. By the age of 9 or 10, her life seemed destined for the same oppressive path. She was working 12 to 15 hours per day in a Nepali sweatshop as a child laborer, receiving less than $2 per grueling shift, and only if she completed the hundreds of garments demanded of her. Nasreen ate, slept, and toileted in a sweatshop workstation the size of a prison cell. She recalls often picking sewing threads out of her food and being too afraid to look out of the window. Like all girls in her village, Nasreen was not allowed to go to school. Her family had arranged a forced marriage for her, but through a serendipitous encounter with a kind stranger who provided the only education she ever received, starting with how to read and write, Nasreen was able to seize her destiny by escaping the sweatshop and forced marriage. She is the first and only girl from her village to refuse to be forced married. Around the age of 16, determined to empower local disadvantaged women, Nasreen managed to secure a loan and founded Local Women's Handicrafts, LWH, a fair trade sewing collective in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu, the city in which she worked as a child labourer, and in a situation which is very rare for these children to get out of. In 2015, Nasreen visited the US and founded the Empowerment Collective, a nonprofit organization that envisions a world where women are leaders in their communities, in control of their own lives, their own rights, and their own decisions. The Empowerment Collective's goal is to build 20 women empowerment centers in 20 years. Her organization is bringing together good people, good government, good business, and good media to co-create global human rights. She believes that with innovative technology, we can build a new society where every person is free to be a leader, change maker, and problem solver. This episode is very close to my heart as I have spent so much of the past 15 years working on the issues around why we need sustainable fashion and the inhumanity of clothing production, and for that matter, most of the goods that we live with. I can't believe it has been over 20 years since No Logo was written by Naomi Klein, and that now, in 2021, there are 40 million people in modern slavery, and this is a part of the population that the pandemic has been utterly devastating towards. In this conversation, called Collective Empowerment from the Heart, we explore the themes of modern-day slavery, women's rights, and cultural change. We contemplate the question, how can we make better choices with what we have and who we are for the good of humanity? I hope that you enjoy this episode and that it inspires you to live with greater compassion and do what you can with this life to make the future more beautiful for all. Welcome to The Future is Beautiful, with me, your host, Amisha Gadiali. On this show, we explore the weave between politics, spirituality, creativity, and sustainability. It's time for us to move beyond silos and into an integrated way of being. Every one of us has ideas and personal experiences to share that can lead us to a brighter future. This is the revolution. Despite the challenges we face as a global community or the pressures that we meet in our daily lives, when we stop and dare to dream, to ask ourselves the big questions, and to share what we are already doing, we create the future that we wish to wake up for. That future is beautiful. Nasreen, I am delighted and honoured to welcome you to The Future is Beautiful. Before I ask you any questions, I want to say thank you for devoting your life to sharing your story. I say that because I know that you have to go around the world telling people again and again and again what's happened in your life, and that process is always bringing up the trauma again, and it's emotional labor that you're being asked to do, having already had a difficult life. Before, I just wanted to honor that you're doing that work, and that we're grateful that you're sharing with us so that we can extend our empathy and our understanding, and that we can bring some humanity into this crazy situation that we have in the world. It's something that I've been talking about for many years, and I've had a really big interest and done a lot of advocacy work in the fashion industry. But it's always statistics and stories. You know, I've never had the experience of sitting with somebody that has lived through this nightmare that we've created in the world. I wanted to ask you where you find your resilience from. And I know I already partly know the answer because we've just spent the last 20 minutes laughing a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that that's one of your ways of being able to keep
connecting and to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, Amisha, thank you so much for inviting me, and just incredible space that you create to speak from the heart. And that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like, my resilience, and I feel like everybody have that resiliency, but to share my experience in this is really knowing that there is a beautiful future, like curiosity and imagination of being a human and human potential is something that I was able to recognize in very early age. And knowing who you are as a person, and sometimes we limit ourselves with certain belief systems and certain conditioning. And once you let go of those conditioning and let go of those belief systems, you know that you are infinite soul. You can live in a many different experience. You can do anything. It's like everything is challenging and feels impossible, but if your focus is there and if you're determined, nothing is impossible in the end of the day. And that's how I live my life. I know that I want to spend every single breath of my life in service to everybody, and especially service to the most underserved people that I left behind. That's like, and I do that because it's a healing journey for me. It heals me. Like when I save one child, when I help one marginalized woman, it helps me heal my childhood trauma that I experienced.
Beautiful. What are some of the other ways that you find that resilience? And so it sounds like what you're saying is so much of it comes from being connected to a sense of purpose, a sense of why you're doing what you're doing, and why it's important. And are there any other ways of being that really nurture you and really connect you to that infinite soul?
Yes, I had certain awareness when I was back in my village. I was very, very young, like 6, 7 year old. My village was undocumented. We didn't had any electricity, no cars, no hospitals. Like, just very rural area. And one of the advantage was you don't have light, but you have the access to stars. We didn't have a school, so I would just, instead of going to the school and reading about 1, 2, 3, I was counting the star in the evenings. And in my village, we didn't, like, my mom didn't had any fuel to cook food, so I often go to the forest and pick up firewood to collect, and so my mother could prepare meals. That when I would go into that forest, I would spin with sun, and I would just talk to the nature because I had no one to talk to in that time. The more I did that, it felt like these nature started to talk to me, and I felt like sense of wholeness in that. And I received my very, very special prayer through that. It might sound really crazy and weird.
This is the last place that sounds crazy or weird.
It's like, yeah, it's like, oh my God, like, but I did had, like, I felt so connected to the nature, and I felt like, just like, I felt more safe and connected to the nature when I was very young in that village. And when I go and when I'm with my aunt, I'm seeing being torturous. When I am seeing the young girls, she's being forced into marriage. When I'm seeing my older sister, she's going to be forced into marriage. I was able to see the two side from very early age. Going to the nature, seeing the tree was completely wholeness. Coming back to home and seeing my sisters and my aunts, hurting, I felt kind of lonely in that whole society.
And then at the same time that you had all these friends in the trees and the stars.
Exactly. Like that I felt like, they couldn't talk to me, but I could feel them. And that's why I talk a lot of the time about intuition and feelings, because many time we try to make sense things from our mind, and we forget our heart and we forget our guts. It's all of this part is a part of our human evolution, and if we learn how to use that, we can be really out of suffering, I feel. And we see the problems and we see the solution also at the same time. And I feel like none of the problem is impossible to solve, if we put our intention to it.
Absolutely. For you, that special relationship that you had with nature that gave you that kind of clear intuition and the courage to make the very bold decisions that you've made, was that something that was really unusual? Did you share that kind of connection with nature with other friends or family members in the village? Could you talk to anyone about it?
I tried one time with one of my cousin. He was male and he didn't respected it. He laughed. It's like, what are you talking? I was like, yeah, like this tree can talk to me, and this plant can talk to me. And it's like, well, are you crazy? What are you talking? And he like take the stone and he throws towards the sky and says like, are you talking about that sky? And I'm like, yeah, but I felt a little kind of disrespect towards that. So since then, I stopped talking about to anybody. I didn't tell anyone.
It's amazing because when I was reading your story and I didn't know this part of it, and I was like, wow, I've never really understood it to be possible because the system is so strong at keeping people where they are within that system. When I was reading about your story and I was like, how has she done this? And when you talk about this incredible relationship with nature and the connection of your soul and sort of being able to gather this extra strength and resilience that wasn't provided for you within the humans and the construct and the system, then I'm like, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so opposite. Like the human society was very scary. Like, I would laugh and my mom said, don't laugh, because as a girl, if you laugh, you will be known as a prostitute. It's not respected. And so they were holding back, the society was holding back even my laugh. So you can imagine what else they could hold back, like no schools, like everything, just like for towards girls especially was like sleeping sheep. And they take away your brain and your creative part. It's just so sad because we are so much in mind. And I hope that one day we will all understand that we are we are better than this.
Yeah. There's a kind of a quote or a saying that I came across many years ago that really stuck with me, which was, half of the world is in slavery, being forced to make products. The other half of the world is in slavery, like in the office cubicle, to buy these products that we don't even need, that don't fulfill us, that aren't connected to the truth of who we are as humans. That has really been one of the big kind of inspirations for all the work that I've done in how can we the ones on the side that have the power to buy things and that are in that part where we have electricity, we have water, we have shelter, we have credit cards and access to so many things, like how can we make better choices with what we have and who we are? And then at the same time, like how can we recognize that there's just more to life than all of this for everyone involved and make something very different of this world?
Yeah, and I feel like it brings to the truth, it brings back to the connection, and the feelings. And, a lot of these companies or a lot of this whole consumerism part is not built on the base of truth. It's so much built on the base of like heavily consumption. Just everything is fast. The world is like it's so much feeded by fears and scarcities. The system is not built on the philosophy of abundance and enoughness and connection to one another. And that's how I feel like it ruined my childhood, and not only my childhood but so many millions of other people childhoods are still being ruined, and they're slave. The 40 million people are in slavery right now, and which is 21 millions of them are women and girls. So I like imagine, we haven't touched the story yet, what like happened to my village, like this whole, like, can you even imagine in 2021 these rural villages are being undocumented still, and people who born in that village are not, they don't know how old they are, they don't have birth certificate, they don't have driver license, they don't have bank accounts, they don't have anything. So how they are going to be even talk about their rights? And most of these young girls are being forced into marriage, and they have 6, 7, 8 children, and as soon they turn 12, 13, they're being sent to the city to work, to seek a better life. These villages has their own culture, and they have their own ethnicities and their own beauties. And somehow, I don't know how, but somebody told or something happened in these villages that people started to say like, oh, your ethnicity is old style, let's move to the new style. The new style is going to the factory, working and making money. That's how like a lot of the children in my villages are being sent to the city. Happened to many of my cousins. Many of my cousins are in Delhi right now working in a sweatshop. Unfortunately for me, I was not sent to India, but I was sent to Kathmandu, Nepal. I was around 9 or 10 year old, and I find myself in this small, tiny room, 10 by 10, 6 people. We eat, we lived, we work, we slept, and we make hundreds of garments. When I talk about these things, I strongly feel like I don't know if people can even relate and even think that it's possible especially in the first world countries. It's not possible here. Like, the childrens are having better life and all that. So it's just to see that how disconnected we are, and for me to know that like how the first world countries are still importing slavery. They are importing slavery not in the form of human, but in the form of products. And that products is clothes and the chocolate that you eat in the evening, or the coffees that you drink in the morning, or the phone that you use every day. People don't have time to look and research about it. People are not being responsible to take a time and make sure that what they are consuming. Children like us who born in these rural areas don't have birth certificate, don't have anything. We are being brainwashed to go to this sweatshop, work, work, work. We eat, we live, we die there. And that's our life. And it just continues over and over and over. And I feel like this cycle needs to end. And hopefully, our humanity will wake up where we will not import slaveries. We will maybe get into a point where we import creativity and love and culture and tradition and ethnicities, than just taking things that is really built on the slaveries and tears. Just to catch up on my sweatshop experience was like I was 9 or 10 year old. Like just imagine being 9 or 10 year old, taken away from the parents, away from your village, from your culture, from your comfort zone, and being swept into a 10 by 10 room with strange people. You don't know those people, and you just have to work and work and work and make things. For me, I was like, this is the life. This is what we need to do. And there's a like agent that puts you a quota of order, and they tell you like you have to do this and you have to make it and you have to make it. That's when like sometime our order would be like 500 pieces a week. And then we would start from 4 a.m. and work and work and work. And it would go until like 8, 9, 10, and still the pile of clothes would be not finished. That's when I literally, like, my gut literally started to hate it. Like, I hated those clothes. Like, I felt like every stitch that I'm doing, it's like, it's my blood, it's my tears. I'm cursing that clothes. I'm telling, like, really, like, whoever's wear these clothes, I don't care who, but whoever wear these clothes, I hope they can feel me. I hope that they can feel this. And people were so disconnected, so they couldn't feel it. And that's why this whole fast fashion and this whole consumerism is still thriving, because people are not connected to their own feelings. Like, you can feel the energy from the clothes and from anything, from any objects, if you are tuned with yourself. Yeah, I mean, I can go forever, but it's just like go forever, because I can just take you like for the whole day and you will be like, okay, I have 10 more questions.
Thank you, Nasreen. And so for our friends listening, I want to just add that these clothes that you're making are perhaps even clothes that friends listening here are wearing, and that there's a whole system where even though the big kind of corporate high street shop that somebody might be buying from, that they might have, certain certifications or say that they have these kinds of standards within all their factories. But then there'll be a smaller factory and then a smaller factory and then a smaller factory. And then somewhere in a back alley, in a place that no one can ever find, no one will ever see, will be kids like you were.
Yeah, exactly. It's like unmarked buildings. So it was a big building, and in big building you have like a small tiny room, and then mostly also, especially in my case, like my understanding is like, I didn't have birth certificate or anything, so it was so easy for these sweatshop. It was illegal in the sense of like rules and regulations, but what was the advantage that they were taking is like, okay, these people are undocumented, they don't have birth certificate, they don't have anything, they're very, very heavily traumatized by the society to not speak up and not laugh or not do anything, like very voiceless and very oppressed and not even having any tools. So people like us get stuck into these sweatshops, and we just, in case like in that sweatshop I lose my hand or I get sick or something happen, there will be never ever police report. So this sweatshop takes advantage of these rural communities, undocumented communities, the communities, especially for women and girls. Like most of the sweatshop workers are women. It's a vicious and very, very scary cycle. The only way to break this cycle is to really, I see that, I hope that there are good businesses and good governments or good corporations, and in the end like good people who can feel this message and who can connect what I'm talking about and really give a voice and give recognitions and take an action towards holding these type of companies who are not giving a full transparency around supply chain. Many companies and many people, we get overwhelmed by this like solving problems. So like a lot of the companies, they just can't, because the whole supply chain is so messed up. Because in my sweatshop, I was not making the whole garment, I was just doing the one stitch, one part of it. And really, honestly, like like those work that I did is just still printed in my brain. And like still those designs is printed in my brain, because it was like thousands of times, same thing over and over and over and over and over. So I felt like, it was like a machine. Like I was not a human. I'm being fed rotten grapes and a rice with bugs, and like we don't have any bed, so we sleep on that pile of clothes that we make. And I don't know if people can really understand that how much chemicals we have in our clothes. And if they would know, they will never wear them. So in the sweatshop, I get to see that how these chemicals are being discarded to the rivers and eventually to the oceans and eventually to the environment. And that's how right now, just in Nepal, in Kathmandu, people, the air is so toxic and the water is so toxic that people are like smoking 10 cigarettes a day. Like, even though they are not a smoker, they are inhaling really toxic air, and it's causing a lot of disease. And everybody is like, feeling sick and unhealthy, and there's no hope. It feels like a war zone, and they need help. Like, they need us. And how can people who have access to technology, who have access to electricity and safe environment and safe home, how can you take action for these people that we have left behind? And right now, the whole power of social medias is like, this is the best way that we can raise awareness. There is a lot of problems, and not many people are talking about it, especially the powerful people. I think they should come forward and they should back up small organizations or the people who are talking about these things to really solve this problem.
And for you, do you feel like awareness raising is enough?
I mean, it's a one step to even know. Like, I feel like many people don't know. In order to make any change, you need to know first the power that this is possible, or this is like the truth. So people need to know the truth of their clothes, of their phones, of their chocolates, and of their coffees. And once they know the truth, then the second is to really demanding, like, they deserve. I feel like children in America deserves a better consumption and healthier consumption, and the children in Nepal and children in India deserves a better future where they need to go to school instead of being forced into these labors. The number one start is to raise awareness. Number two is to recognizing it. And number three is becoming responsible and starting from one thing. Even myself, like, I don't know where this earphone came from, the phone that I'm using, that where it come from, but I'm working every single day that which companies are the one that is really talking about sustainabilities, who is talking about the truth and showing and working towards humanity. I want to support those companies. For the people who understand that there is a problem, I really invite them to join the organizations or the companies who is trying very hard towards changing the world. And we need to join them, and we need to let go of the other companies which is still struggling and not paying attention of those humanitarian side.
And how we can also nudge those companies that perhaps we're all buying products from, Apple, for example, that to be better with what they're doing.
Exactly.
And thank you for sharing some of your story and your experience. And honestly, it's not something that anyone can really understand what it is like to live inside that room, to know that you're probably never going to leave it as well. There isn't like, this isn't just a day or a week. And we're here in lockdown at the moment, and people are finding that hard enough here. And that's like living in your own house with the freedom to go outside. That's like getting to do your own activities during the day and eat what you want and all of those kinds of things. And yet people are struggling, tearing their hair out. There is a mental health crisis. There's a lot going on from that. And so we can't even imagine,
Yeah, exactly. Like 1000%. Like, I think what lockdown gave a blink is very, very, very tiny blink of an awareness, what it feels like to be held back. And the people in these underserved communities, they are not only being held back, but they're being tortured. Like, I was literally was torture in that sweatshop, by like, eating the food that who had bugs, or eating like, imagine just, being in that 10 by 10 room with 6 people, you make clothes and you sleep on that, and then you eat rotten foods. It's a torture, you are constantly in pain, and that's the life, there's no other way. And I feel like this whole pandemic was a little awareness to the people that I hope they really can envision the trauma that our humanity is facing, but also our nature is facing. Like, there was like tiny blink of an awareness. So, and I think this is such a beautiful thing that many people didn't had to go through what I had to go through. And, they can just see a little blink, but now they can really come forward and help us build a new world,
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk more about the new world that we can bring, and that beautiful energy that you have for it, which is infectious in all the right ways.
I get super excited. I'm like, yes, let's just spend all of our, like, every minute of our time to build a new world,
I want to ask you, when you were in the sweatshop, were you able to connect to this part of your essence, which is so clear, that this joyfulness and this sort of connection to nature and something bigger? Or did you feel, often in traumatic situations, we have to kind of leave our body, so we just kind of can become the machine and let go of that part of us? How was that for you?
One of the things that came, and maybe it's because I was already connected to the nature previous going to the sweatshop, and that is turned into my prayers, because I started to talk to the shirt. I wasn't talking to the agent, I wasn't talking to the people, I wasn't talking to my coworkers or anybody.
You didn't really talk to the other girls?
Not much. We because we had to, like, the machine was so loud, and we were all just working.
Wow.
So we didn't had the chance to talk much. We wouldn't.
And even at night, you didn't talk about how scared you all were, missing home. And
it was very, very intense. Like, it checked my body out. Like, we didn't had that much of, like, it was so intense. We were like being like very malnourished, and we had the constant calling and fear from the agent that we need to finish this quota. So if we would talk about the piece and the products, and then we would be just like, usually, like, like when you are young, you want to just go to sleep. When you work so hard, you want to just go to sleep. And that would just, like, we would stop the work, we would clean the space, we would put the machine aside, and then we would eat whatever it is and then fall asleep. That was the thing. And then my thing that came out is when the long periods, when the long session, like 12 to 15 hours when I would work, that's when I was like, being kind of like hypnotized with the clothes. And that's when I would started to pray to the shirt and saying, like, whoever this wear, I don't know where it will go. I wish I could be a shirt. I could be not a human. Like, like that prayer just came, like, because I saw that how that clothes were like moving from one place to another, going to different location, being washed, being, cleaned and packed and tagged and all that stuff. But for me, I was stuck in this one stitch over and over and over, in one place over and over and over, one bed over and over and over. So it's just like, it felt like the clothes were luckier than me in that time.
Hello. We're taking a short pause from the conversation. On behalf of our team and our community, thank you for being here and co-creating The Future is Beautiful. Much dedication, love, and time goes into the production of this show. We believe in being advertising free in a world that's always trying to sell us stuff we don't need. And so we make this show with you and for you, thanks to your support. There are 3 ways you can be more involved, so we can share the vision, wisdom, and creativity here as we explore what it means to be a human in this time. You can support the podcast by sharing it with your friends, posting episodes on social media, and doing iTunes reviews. You can support as a patron by making a monthly or one-off donation of your choice. And with this, you join the Global Patrons group and monthly video calls where we share connection and insight. You get to know the other amazing patrons from around the world, their stories and their work, and you offer direct support to me and the team, as well as being brought into the behind the scenes of creating something like this. It sounds like a lot, but it's as much or as little as you want to get involved in. You can become a member of Presence, our membership collective of care and practice, where we explore how to embody the themes of the podcast with workshops, calls, special events, tree whispers, and powerful tools, practices, and rituals that you can bring into your life. This is open to absolutely everybody as we create an inclusive and diverse space that celebrates well-being as a human right, where we explore together what it means to be creative, courageous, and connected to ourselves, each other, and the earth. This is about embodying sacred activism. We love meeting patrons and Presence members and how being part in this way weaves our lives together, as well as making this show possible. If anything from this conversation has moved or inspired you, please get more involved. All information can be found at www.thefutureisbeautiful.co/community. This show really can't go on without your patronage and Presence membership, so please do make it happen. And now, back to the conversation.
As it's International Women's Day this week, what I'm learning from your experiences is that for a girl, a young woman in rural Nepal, which has so much beautiful culture, and yet the options seem to be forced into marriage young, where you're not allowed to laugh and you will have to keep producing children, hopefully boys.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we have that in Indian culture as well. Or you can find your way into one of these sweatshops, or you might find yourself trafficked into sex slavery and maybe taken around the world through that passage. Yeah, it's not great options. And this is 2021.
I know it is very challenging time. I feel like this is a tipping point where we do recognize the problems that we have in the society, and how can we all come together to help each other out from that conditions. Because really I feel I spent almost my 23 years in the communities where most of the modern day slaves are active. 23 years. In these 23 years experience, what I saw is underserved communities, women and girls, and the people are really looking for help. They need help. And when I come to America and when I come to UK and any other countries, I see that the first world countries do have an opportunities to really eradicate from the root this slavery, like really free these innocent children and innocent people that needs to become human. They need to be a human, and they deserve to be a human, and they are looking up to us. And the more we speak about it, the more we share this message. And especially, I'm so grateful that someone in some time have fought for this International Women's Day, that we have this day. And how can we all global women can connect together in one spot and really build a plan and really come together to help unleash all these innocent spirits that are still stuck in slavery, still stuck in forced marriage, still stuck in poverty. We can be that leader for them. And that was the whole reason that I started this whole empowerment collective nonprofit organization. I really focus on 7 keys When I was in the sweatshop, I didn't had a nutrition food. I was eating food with maggots and rottens and very very low nutritious food, and it was torturous. It shrinked my ability to think to be better. So I invite all those people to like really like let's connect to the root and let's provide a nutritious food to the most underserved communities so they can think, so they can think to get out of that problem. Same with water. When I was young, I was drinking 71% toxic water, and that's literally like makes your tooth rotten. That's like gives you a lot of malarias and disease. I have my own story on this whole malaria thing, that when I was young I was about to die, and hopefully I will write in my book because I'm writing my book. I really want to have people to access to clean water. Like as a humanity in 2021, every single person in this planet deserves to have a clean water. Every single person should have health care, where they feel like they can be healthy. And, we need to have like this safe environment and shelters. The only thing that I feel like really makes me feel like it is accessible, because with the help of technology, look what like in pandemic, how this whole Zoom call and this technology made us easier to connect more than ever, and brought this like this whole the idea of border collapsed because people from India can connect from people in US, like people didn't have to travel. All they had to know is that there is a Zoom meeting is happening and you can join from anywhere from the planet. And it was just such a positive force of awareness that I feel that we could also invent a technology that makes sure that these 7 keys that I'm talking about, we can use this technology to help these underserved people. These leaders and thinkers, they can really come together and provide these innovative technology to give access to farmers. So there is whole bondage labors in the farming industry, and mostly it's women again. So how can we provide them a good technology that the farmers doesn't feel like they need to have a slave working in their land, but instead of person, maybe the machine can do some of the work, and human can work more towards on creativity and making sure that the foods are seasonal and nutritious and all that. Same with the clean water. I feel like we have abundance of water in our planet, but if we don't use it right, it's not going to help anybody. So how can we use a good filtration system and good technology to source the water and filter that water and give it to the communities? So I'm just really, in the end of the day, I am trying to bring good people, good government, good business, good media together to co-create global human rights with the support of these 7 keys. And I believe that we can build a new society where every person is free to be a leader, change maker, and problem solver. I want people to join me and make these 7 things accessible to everybody, whoever needs it, because this is the foundation of our basic human rights. If we don't give basic human rights in this timeline in 2021, I feel like we are going to lose a huge potential of our society. We will face a lot of natural disaster, which we are already are, but we will also lose lots of communities and culture, and lots of people will die, and they are dying right now. I spent 9 months in 2020 in a rural village in the border of India and Nepal. I just went there for like a month, and then all this pandemic happened and I got stuck there. So I had to stay there for like 9 months. And the beautiful part of that whole thing was to be able to see that all those things that I experienced as a child, it was still happening. And still the man is abusing the women, and the children is working in a bondage labors, and the women are still in the bondage agriculture. it literally brought a lot of new refresh awareness to me that, oh my God, like we need to come together now and fight together to free these people. They're human just like us, and they have feelings, and they have, they want to create, and they want to be in service, but they are trapped right now, and they are in the box, and they need leadership. They need a good leader and the good businesses who can believe in them and help them become who they are truly, which is, I think, entrepreneurs, problem solvers, thinker, leaders, all those. We all have the abilities to bring something unique to our planet, and we should respect that.
So powerful. What was the experience of being in the village as COVID came in and happened? And how has it been for people in rural villages where COVID is now there, and there isn't the protection that, that we have in the West of like, stay in your house, stay separate, where people live in small spaces together?
Yeah, it was funny and very shocking also. And we think that our government, I don't know what they were thinking about social distancing, and they would say like, you all guys need to have social distancing, and we're like, no, like we have, like 10 by 10 room, and we live 8 people together. How can you make us to be in social distancing? So social distancing was just impossible in Nepal. Imagine if it brought a little stress in the Western world, how much stress it brought to the people in these marginalized communities. Oh my God. It was so sad to see children starving, like the family, the mother and the father feeling totally hopeless because they had a daily wager jobs, and that daily wager jobs they lost it. They don't have it because of the COVID. And now the parents have nothing to feed, and their children is literally starving, and they are seeking from the communities, and the communities is already very poor, so they don't have any food. So I saw a lot of the children is very, very malnourished, like very malnourished, not even having toothpaste to brush their tooth, and like very, very, very disadvantaged. I tried my best. Like I was like, okay, how can I help this village? And I started to fundraise for them in March. Started to tell the story of this village and showing people face, and we raised some money, and we were able to distribute 410,000 meals in this village. But the sad part is like, one village is I'm helping, but there was so many surrounding villages. They were like constantly coming to our place, and they're like, can you help us? Can you help us? And it was very, very overwhelming. So that's why I'm still continuing with the feeding programs, and we are still helping the people who are affected by the COVID. And in Nepal, there's majority of the people are daily wagers. So if they lost the job and they have like 8 children, and they don't know how to survive and all that. So it's like, people in this time, I feel like in the hard time, we really need to come together and help each other out. But I feel so sad thinking about that, because people don't have basic human rights. They don't have food, they don't have clean water, they don't have a medicine. They live in a society where everywhere is pollution. They don't have education. So I feel like even though they try very hard to help themselves, they are one of the hardest working people that I know, but they just don't have any opportunities to grow because their basic human rights is taken away from them. So they don't have any foundation to build their life upon. I felt like SDG goal was very overwhelming, and we need to go back to like what are the root basic things that we need. And I feel like we need nutrition, food, and we need water, and we need shelter, and we need education, we need health and safe environment, and we need If we can introduce these technology, a phone or our internet to these communities, they can really learn by themselves and co-create their own future. So that's what I'm fighting for right now. And I think of all day, every day, for all these 40 million people who still remain in modern day slavery. I am taking the opportunities anywhere I can speak, I can stand up, or I can advocate like around the world for these 7 keys to eradicate modern day slavery. I feel like I need help. I need good people and good businesses to come together and help me eradicate modern day slavery. I'm helping right now a lot of people in Nepal, but I would really like to expand this work in other countries such as India. It's very close to my heart because some of my cousins are still stuck in the sweatshop in New Delhi. They work in that whole embroidery things in garment factory, and I want to rescue them. I want to help them. I can't because I feel like I need people help. So it's like, yeah.
I would love to help you with that. And maybe we can talk about that and find more people that can help and really do this important work to bring, as well as the rights that you've shared, the right to live in one's soul.
I just feel like basic human rights, like we need basic human rights. So then these people can build, like, once I had my education, we didn't catch up on the stories, how I was able to escape that sweatshop. And, so, with the help of kind person who gave me education, that's when, with the help of education, I started to understand what was happening in my society, what was happening to me was against human rights violation. And once I had that intellectual awareness, that's when I'm like, okay, oh my God, this is wrong, because these people in these underserved communities, they don't know if they're wrong, and they don't have that awareness. So once you have that education and the tool to really understand the problem, and then you can, work towards how to create into a solution. And that's when, like, I'm like, okay, I met my teacher when I was around 12, and he became my mentor, my teacher for this last 10 years. He gave me the education. And with that, I was able to understand my basic human rights. I was like, okay, now I understand my basic human rights. What can I do for the people that I have left in my villages and all that? Well, I couldn't go back to the village. So I need to be in Kathmandu. And that's when I think I was around 15 or 16. That's when I take a loan and I started a fair trade, eco-conscious collective called Local Women's Handicrafts. Right now in that business, we are really trying to bring a lot of natural products. Like we work a lot with hemp. We grow, we harvest, we weave, we use 100-year-old loom. We literally did everything opposite of the sweatshop that I saw. Like everything, like in the sweatshop we didn't have the windows. So in our center we have the biggest windows. It's built near the national park. The women have access to clean water. They're receiving living wage. And we are going to these bigger factories and collecting these leftover fabrics. We're collecting these old saris and turning into these beautiful yoga mats and other products. It's like we're turning all the keys towards creativity. So far we have built 2 center. Right now that 2 center served over 100 women. And in COVID, we used to have a physical store and we're still keeping it, but we're struggling really a lot because in Nepal, almost 61% of businesses died because of the COVID, completely died because they were very small business, tiny business, and they were so much dependent on the international markets and stuff. It's very sad and very challenging for the people.
What has happened to those people? Because that's a lot of businesses, and each one of those businesses would have been feeding a lot of mouths.
The research says that we went back 30 years back in our progress. So we're just becoming more poor, and more of the young girls will be forced into marriage. There will be more human trafficking. There will be more slavery. And it is because there's no money and there's no markets. The only hope that we see is that, and I relate this to my own experience, like when our physical shop was like shutting down and for like last 10 months, and we are like, okay, what can we do? Okay, let's build an online e-commerce, so we built this online e-commerce, and we brought all these women's stories and all these products online. So that's how we were able to survive. But a lot of these small businesses, they don't know how to use technology. They don't know how to read and write English, and know about the e-commerce. And plus, Nepal does not have the system to connect with the world yet. Like, if somebody was trying to sell things from Nepal to UK, you will be not able to, like buy things online. They don't have that system. So I was just so grateful that I had already a business here in US, and I was able to connect that our social business through the business here in US, and we were able to tell people like, hey, help us survive these 100 women that needs help. And people started to purchase these crafts online, and that's how we were able to survive. But many businesses, they are really in trouble, and like the whole development stopped. Like the road in Kathmandu is terrible right now. There's like no infrastructure expanding, and there's so many people, and everything is just like filled with risk. Like anytime something can collapse, and hundreds and thousands of people will die. It's getting very dire. I was reading the research that almost 42% of the children in Nepal is right now malnourished, and the COVID is really affecting and increasing this number. So I hope that now, because this is such a big and massive thing, I feel like individual people do need to demand, but also I feel like the government and the businesses really need to open their heart and feel these people, and not give power to negativities and control and greed, but give more power to to save these people in the ground, and give access to some resources so these people can start their businesses. For local women's handicrafts, our small business, like we wanted to sell things, and our women were making things, and we don't want to sell on Amazon because we feel like it doesn't meet with our values. So we have to stay in the website, but we don't have the funding to go and market it. So it's like, it's a really challenging time for the people who are trying to do good, because we have very, very limited resources. So that's why, like, I'm every day telling people, like, if you're really believing in humanity, if you really care about environment, please come and partner with us, because there's not many good companies, and if there is a handful of them, people need to come together and help them, so we can help more people.
Beautiful. Can you tell us about the 1 million masks, and that being a way that all our friends listening can get involved right now?
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So when I was in the village, we were like, okay, we feed this month and next month, and we fed people for like the last 3 months. And then we were like, oh my God, this pandemic is continuing. It's not going away. So that's when our women, they all came together, and they started to make these use these fabrics, which is Dhaka fabric. It's a very traditional native fabric of Nepal, and those prints are just so good. And so our women started to make this mask. We got approved by the local clinics that this is really good. The plain ones are organic cotton, and we came up with an initiative, like one mask sold will feed 10 meals a day in Nepal. Anybody who purchase a mask, it will cost $10, one mask $10, and that money goes directly to feed people in the ground. Anybody, any companies or any organization needs reusable, organic, native fabric Nepali mask, which is made by very, very special women, marginalized women's, and they have so much hope on this 1 million mask initiative. We have sold over 5,000 pieces, but we need more people's support. I hope that there is some people who would listen this and says like, okay, I can just order, I have a chain store and I can order 50,000 masks, and we will be so blessed to have that happening. So we are looking for angel who can come and say like, we want you to feed people. And that's what I am so much dedicated about, like making sure that nobody goes hungry in this time. When we are going through this really dark timeline, everybody have the food. And that's my intention through this 1 million mask initiative.
Beautiful. And can these masks be shipped around the world, like to Europe and?
Yeah, everywhere. We can ship it all around the world. We have been shipping like UK a lot. Like in this, I spoke in several conferences in UK, and there were some orders, so we were able to ship in UK. Yeah, all over Europe, all over US and Canada, Australia. Yeah.
When you give the offer to donate masks, does that mean that you donate them back into the community, or does that mean that you donate them, you buy them and you donate them yourself physically somewhere close to you?
So yeah, donating mask means like those whoever donates it, that mask will go to the underserved communities, underserved schools or underserved communities, and we give it to the students who couldn't afford the mask to really help them protect by this COVID. We collect the donated mask, and when it reaches to like 100 mask or 200 mask, then we connect and work with local schools who are working with the underserved children, and then we organized this whole mask distribution. So that's how we have been working. So far we have donated 700 masks. Just recently, a week ago, we donated to one of the school in very, very underserved village. I will be sharing that video in coming week in social medias, so you can see the faces of these children, and every piece is making a difference, and it's really reaching to the people who really deserves it and needs it.
Beautiful. And you also have other really needed products that can be donated, such as menstruation, hygiene kits, which is another huge issue affecting girls and women around the world.
Yes, especially in Nepal, it's with menstruation there's a whole tradition called chopadi, and in that chopadi, mostly when the women are menstruating, they are considered impure. They are considered like they need to go and stay in away from their home in the hut in a really terrible condition, because women consider impure in that time, and they need to stay away from home. And when it's like cold season and in winter, often women lose their life. We have a couple of recent reports where girls got suffocated in the hut and died, or the snake came and bit the girl and died. Why? Because she was practicing chopadi, which means like she was menstruating and she needs to stay away from the family to lose her life. Like, can like even people imagine like it's like happening, like girls, because you have the menstruation, you need to stay in the hut, and then the hut is built in a very like with nothing, like with straw and a piece of bamboo. Of course the snake can go and bite that little girl and she will die. And people are like, this news is there, and still these huts should be destroyed, and the government would have invested money and funding to make these hygiene kits accessible to these girls. And it's like, no. So our organization, we started to bring all these like women, local women, and we train them how to make reusable pads. And that pad is made out of antibacterial, antifungal, waterproof fabrics, and we create these kits. And then we give it to the girls. We take a local nurse and one of our team member. We go to the schools and we educate the girls about the positive impact of periods and how we need to embrace it. And then in the end, we give them these hygiene kits that can stay with them for almost 2 years. It has been such a positive impact because the girls they were not missing the school anymore, because usually if the girls does not have the hygiene kit, they will miss the schools. They will, like, in a month, 4 days, 5 days, they will miss that school. So now they have the hygiene kits, they can go to the school. So just little things, it costs literally like just $20, and that $20 hygiene kits the girls can have for 2 years, and for 2 years she will feel confident, she will go to the school, she will learn, and she will grow, and she will talk to her friends, and she will fight for that stigmas to let it go and not repeat that cycle over and over. So I just feel like these projects that we have created is just very deeply connected to the root of poverty and oppression. And really, I feel like one of the things that we are different from many different organizations, because I have lived myself not having a pad as a young girl. Like when I was menstruating, I didn't even know what like I was so scared when I had my periods for the first time. I was like, oh my God, why do I have blood coming? Like, oh, like, I got scared and I didn't tell the whole month to anybody. And it's so important, and it's so sad that the society doesn't have figured this out,
especially as this is the seed of life. This is how we're all able to be alive, is the power of the woman to menstruate and to bring life into the world. And it's such a potent and sacred time for women, and it just needs to be respected.
I know. It's like, oh my God, it's like basic human needs, and they have turned into this pure thing into an impure. It's opposite. So I just feel like what can we do? Okay, let's create a menstruation kit. Let's start giving these girls this access. And my dream is to make these kits accessible and free all over Nepal. So none of the girl has to ever worried about, not missing schools or not, and worried about periods and all that. So I really hope that I can make that happen through this nonprofit. And that's why I'm speaking every single day to these colleges, universities, raising money to do that. And so far we have donated 7,500 pads, but we would like to do more. There is over 15 million women in Nepal. And so I just feel like we need lots of good support and good people to help us with these projects.
I would like to request to everybody listening that has a daughter or was born from a woman's body to go and buy one of these kits. And I also want to just signpost for everybody that, as well as this, you offer incredible opportunities to sponsor women in actually learning tools, such as to become a fashion designer or a weaver, so that they can actually create their own businesses. And within all of this, we've sort of skipped through your story, which is okay. But I just want to fill in a few gaps and honor the incredible social entrepreneur that you are, the courage that you've had, and this determination. And so to find your way out of the sweatshop, and then at a time where you're living on the streets, a dog leads you to somebody that you ask if they can teach you, and they do, because of this relationship that you created for yourself out of that curiosity and that spark that you managed somehow to hold on to, despite all of these circumstances, that enabled you to go to school within roughly 4 years. We don't exactly know because you don't know your exact age, but within roughly 4 years, you had started your own business, empowering other women to make crafts in their own conditions that were not the kinds of conditions that you had experienced, so that they could empower themselves and create different lives. And you did that roughly around the age of 16 when you were still a teenager.
Yes. Oh my God. When I reflect back on time, I feel like humanity is alive inside of us, in all of us. There is a lot of love than fear. And my teacher was a perfect example for that. Like he could have been a person that would have just ignored me and passed by through his dog and never listened to me. But what he did, he listened, and he listened that I wasn't asking for money, I wasn't asking for food, I was asking for educations. And his kind heart, the love that he has had for humanity, like look how ripple affected it, because he was kind and he gave me all this kind education and understanding. It led me to be dedicated to like help and more people, and I receive the energy from my women because I see them when they come to our center. And in the beginning, they're very scared, they're very much in fear, they feel like they matter nothing. And when we introduce them to our center and we embrace them and we love them, and then within the 6 months or a year, we see that how their spirit is like rising up and they're becoming an advocate, they're becoming a teacher, they're becoming a business owners. It's just like a beautiful, powerful source of energy of nature that I see, and that's like gives me such a dedication to create this, because like really suffering is, it's horrible. It really, like I feel like suffering is just so, like nobody should suffer. And many people say like, oh, suffering during makes you think differently and all that. Yes, but like there is a different way of suffering. And if some right now, a lot of the women's and girls suffering are very severe and very torturous, and it's very traumatizing. It takes their life away. So that's why like I'm like all about, let's eradicate modern day slavery, because in 2021, when we have this beautiful future coming soon, we need to get ready to build a new world. And we can build a new world only when we embrace and love everyone and care for each other. It does not need to be a big way. Like, look, my teacher, he was in the street and he just took me to the bookstore, like very small action that he took. And the more I connected with him, the more he became like my father, my mentor, my everything in that time. And I feel like anybody could do that, like take a $5 and purchase a backpack for the students so they can go to the school, have a $20 that you spend on going and drinking. Instead of there, like you take that $20 and give a girl a hygiene kit that she can go to school for 2 years, and have a hygiene kit. So it's like little action that I feel like people can do to serve to the humanity. And if you have home and if you have internet and if you have phone, you are blessed one, you are a lucky one. And I'm so happy for you. But I also want you to recognize this as a responsibility, is that how can you take that resources and help enable and change people's life? Because really the change starts from very small accents, and you never know how much you can change people's life. Like my teacher, he just like amazed, he never thought that this will become into whole this movement and awareness. He said that he did one of the best thing in his life by accepting me as his student. So I just invite people to, whenever you get the opportunities to be in service, please never get hesitant, because that's the best moment in your life happening, to be in service. And just give a try and you will see.
I love that. Sometimes people hold back when their heart wants to do something. I love that you're reminding everyone to just to take that risk, just to do it. Like if you feel called, you're also reminding everyone what you can do with an opportunity. You're an incredible example of what you can do with an opportunity, because somebody else could have still gone to that bookshop and not done all the things that you've done. And with the energy and devotion and curiosity and desire to make a more beautiful future that you hold.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like opportunities and people having and giving the opportunities to others also is like vice versa. The more we open our heart, that's where we will start vibrating from, you know, the more we vibrate from the heart. And the kindness is very important. Love is very, very important. And those are the only things will keep our humanity alive and thriving. And I feel like we should all collectively work together to let go of the fear, because that's not who we are, you know. We deserve to be loved and to love. And once we have that philosophy of understanding, that's how we're going to create the new world, you know. Like when I'm helping the women, I often think in my deep heart that this woman is my sister or my mother, or you know, like this is a part of me, you know. And that is very, very healing, you know, when something happened to you and you felt like you were not heard and you were not seen. I want you to not be in that wounded space and in a space of a victim, but become survivor, you know. Become survivor, that you have the infinite power to change your own life and the people around you. This is all in awareness, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it. Many times I work with the people who are like maybe double age of mine or triple age of mine, and I feel like age things does not matter. It's like literally the experience, you know. Every moment you have the choice, and you have the choice of choose good or bad, and that decisions has a power on you. So whatever you choose will be the future.
Thank you. That feels like an almost perfect note to end on. Before we do, I want to ask if there's anything else that you want to share. I feel like there's something else.
I'm just so proud of you. I'm just so,
Oh,
so proud of you to creating this podcast, sharing and bringing people like us to make our voice heard. And I think you're doing like really amazing work to share these voices. And I want more people to participate in your podcast and help us share it. I really want to say to the people to come and join our empowerment collective. And if you believe in good, and if your business is good, and if your media is working towards positive impact, please help and come and join us to enable basic human rights for everybody. And I'm really behind these 7 keys, and I really want to like envision and hold a space for an understanding that we all deserve to have nutrition, food, and clean water, safe shelter, education, health, and access to all the energy that we need to go to the next level of us together to create a new world, a beautiful world, a bright future.
absolutely. And you touched on something there that I want to mention, because it's very generous of you to say about me and my work, and it feels very small compared to your journey. But the thing that's similar is around voice and ancestral healing, and coming from an Asian background where it's unusual, you know, for a woman to be able to speak of such things that I speak of, and to put my voice out there, and to talk about things that are difficult, that are uncomfortable, that are controversial, to bring awareness to issues. And I feel every time I do it, there is this kind of like, there's a discomfort to it on some level, because it's breaking away so much from the conditioning and the culture. Like, who would want to marry someone with so many opinions and all of these other kind of,
Yes.
these other ideas. But also when I look at even those in my own culture that have maybe moved to the West, my parents moved from India. So I was the first generation born not in India. When I look to cousins, to distant relatives, and no one seems to be as free as I am in terms of the lifestyle choices that I've made, the conventions that I've broken. And even when I imagine back one generation, it's so much of the life is around serving the man, the family, even though it's different. And my grandmothers, didn't have the opportunity for education. And so it's such a recent history. I would love for you to share what ancestral healing means to you, because for me, I also know that by being this age and not having had children yet, not having married yet, not having done the kind of job that is expected of me, by having spent so much energy on our collective healing and my own healing, that I have broken stories and I have healed trauma that won't be passed forward if I have my own children, or even to just to others that I'm not directly related to. That in itself, it's labor, it's important work in this world.
My God, yes. I feel like, like I see specifically in Nepal or in India also, is like, women will go to the universities and college and they will still, like, they haven't found themselves, but they get into another situation where, because they have been conditioned to get married by the age of 23 or 25 or 28, you have to be married, because after that, the time is running out. And and I feel like we are being feeded fear over and over. I'm so proud of you and very inspired by you right now, to know that you are breaking the cycle, and I feel like I'm the same one. Like, I don't think I want to have kids, because I feel like millions of other children are suffering, and yet I have not healed myself, So but my parents and my villagers is all the time telling me constantly to get married, and if I don't have children, I'm not a woman, and if I'm not married, then I'm outcasted, and like all sort of belief systems. So it's like, you are literally like breaking the all barriers and conditioning of not just like this timeline or this generation, but like hundreds other generations, ancestral belief system or conditioning that you are, it, but you also are coming back to your own power and coming back to your own feelings and coming back to your own intuitions. Yet your mind might be rushing and saying like, oh my God, I need to be part of the systems. And I think that's how we are going to build a new world, because I'm on the same boat as you. It's like I see people all around me doing the things that they're doing, and great, but I need to be me in order to do things what I want to do. So I know that how much courage it takes and how much sacrifice it takes. And also, I just want you to trust your intuition and your gut and your feelings, because there are many people who are going to break these barriers and going to come out of it, and you are the first one, to be that mirror in the society and be that role model in the society, to shine light on it, because definitely all the young girls will look up to you as a role model, and I'm looking up to you as my role model. Right now I feel very, very courageous to have a woman that understands very similar backgrounds of like women ancestral trauma and conditioning, and being connected to the very similar feeling of healing myself and healing my own and becoming more powerful. One thing about the ancestral healing for me is I feel like all those ancestors that were my ancestors, they are with me and telling me all the time to become me. Like that's what the message I receive. I receive outside noise in the society tells me to not be me, but my ancestors who have passed and who have learned the lessons and who have, didn't receive the education, didn't, get to do what they wanted to do, they are coming to me in my feelings and my awareness. I feel like they tell me, don't do that again, because you need to love yourself in order to even love anybody else in this world. Yeah, like really, I feel like we need to love ourselves, and we are literally a kid in our own soul, and we need to grow it. And once we become mature, there is another, timeline. There's no rush, there's no hurry. I feel like there's enough time. We just need to heal ourselves and become mature, grown up, filled with loving ourselves, and that will radiate into the other places too.
That is so beautiful. And I want to just bring awareness to the complexity of having to heal ancestral trauma and patterns of oppression, slavery, colonialism, all of this. And then at the same time, to be able to feel the liberating spirit of your ancestors and nature, and how that helps you to heal from these oppressive systems.
Yeah, exactly. And like once you are in that holding space, that the space you hold, it just gives opportunities to the other soul who is little scared and little worried. It gives them the opportunities to look up to you, maybe not so much in the outer side, but inner side, I feel like they are. We're just coming together for finally, and we will get through this. And always love yourself, and hopefully all these ancestral imprint that we have all over our brain, our heart, our guts, all over our body will slowly heal. This type of conversation, we need to do more and more, and with more people who can share their experiences to come and be together.
Thank you, Nasreen G. I am going to go and buy some masks and donate some masks right now.
Oh my God, Amisha. I'm so proud of you. I feel I do.
I'm proud of you.
I'm like, I just feel like I need women like you in my life so much, because, you're seeing the same, very similar. I mean, we have complete different experience in our lifetime. Mine was crazy. I don't want you ever to be in that space, but I feel like you can sense it and you can feel it because of the ancestral thing that you are, and that's where we can connect. I feel like, and the oppression of the women overall, and we becoming in this timeline and really choosing, like, do we want to become another oppressed woman, or do we want to become a woman that I want to be, and that contains a lot of energy, that needs the support of a lot of, like, you kind of feel alone in this, in the beginning, like, what I'm doing, is it right? So I just want you to trust it and trust your gut and your feelings and your dreams and your meditations, and the universe will lead us where they need to be, and I'm just not giving any power to the fear, letting go of my fear. I was scared for a long time. Now I don't need to.
Bless your heart. Can you share the links that everyone needs to know?
Yes. So if anybody wants to purchase our local women's handicrafts products, handmade products made out of upcycled natural materials, they can go to localwomenshandicrafts.com. If anybody wants to come and help me eradicate modern day slavery, they can visit empowermentcollective.org, and specifically to the businesses who are, a nutrition business or the business who are working towards water and all those. If you want to give, certain percent of your work towards helping underserved communities, like, helping underserved communities with nutrition food or making them access to clean water, I would like we just invite you to come and join us and help us eradicate modern day slavery.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amisha. I am again like I just feel so happy and so blessed to be able to connect with you, and the future is beautiful. It's just such a beautiful, like, positive vibration energy of this podcast. So I hope that many people will listen this. I cannot wait to share all over the social medias, and I want people to follow us in social medias to hear our updates. Where are we? What are we doing? What we are up to stay connected and, to help us heal and build this new world that we are trying to build very desperately.
Thank you for spending your precious time with us. As always, you can find links to everything we mention in this episode, download our book, and discover so much more over on the blog. We don't believe in selling you things you don't need through this podcast, and so it's made possible with you, our community. If you loved this and would like to fund our show with a monthly donation or join our online group to connect with other listeners, please visit www.thefutureisbeautiful.co and click on Community and Support. Please also share with friends, hit subscribe, and leave us a review so we can grow. Those gold stars really help others find us, so these ideas can spread. Here is to us, creating a beautiful future together. The Future is Beautiful is made by an all-female team working voluntarily or on reduced rates until our listener support grows. If you have been moved by anything you heard here, please donate the equivalent of buying us a drink. All donations make a huge difference to us and will allow us to keep doing this and remain advertising free. Until next time, I leave you with this question. How will you create beauty in the world?